We know where Tommy Robinson's loyalties lie. He's with Ben Habib, or is he with Rupert Lowe? And are they getting together, or do they hate each other? I don't know, I'm very confused.
He's laughing, saying, to Ben Habib, are they friends? Do they hate each other? There's nothing Reform would want that they don't want less or more than advanced Ben Habib joining with Rupert Lowe. They don't want it. They want you warring, they want you clashing, they want you against each other.
We just had to get rid of him, and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties, but you know what? That's the way it's going to be.
I know Nigel's not the man to lead this country and bring real change. He's not got the bollocks for it. What we then have is a mayor of London that's Muslim, a Home Secretary that's Muslim. Now, why is this a problem?
They're rattled. They are properly rattled. And it's no surprise, really, is it? With Rupert Lowe's farm launch of Restore Britain as a political party becoming the most viral political video of the past decade, with the party hitting 60,000 members in just 3 days. But of course, it's on the issue of mass deportations, an actual policy where I think Nigel Farage knows he's losing.
Do you support deporting all of those people?
It's impossible to do. Literally impossible to do.
But is it your ambition?
No.
If that means millions go, then millions go. This is Britain, and we will do things our way. It will be difficult, and it will be painful. But I assure you, it is possible.
So what to do if you're Farage? Well, some reformists who view true conservatives like me as much more of the enemy than leftists or socialists have decided to go on the attack, as they usually do, suggesting that Lowe's policies are somehow racist and anti-Semitic, despite the fact that they really follow Donald Trump's approach to deportations. Look at how the issue was framed to Nigel as he arrived at a rally in Essex last night.
Yes.
Hi Nigel. So Rupert Lowe set up his new party, Restore, and since setting it up, there's been lots of Twitter accounts associated with the party that have shown racism and anti-Semitism. Do you think Restore are a racist party?
I've absolutely no idea. They're of no interest to me at all.
Okay.
Thank you. There are 11 of these parties now. There's a Heritage Party. I mean,
under our electoral system, you need one party to vote for to get the Labour Party out. You can't have all these splinter groups. It's not going to work.
And setting up parties hard.
I've always thought AV Plus was the right solution, because if you have that top-up vote, the second vote, you then get significant minority voices get representation. So,
Nigel is acutely aware of just how massive the Restore launch has been, and he is furious with the fact that MAGA is now quite rightly viewing Rupert Lowe, not Farage, as the British Trump. Here's Benny Johnson's take.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. The single most viral political ad in the last 10 years is right here on your screen right now. A kindly old gentlemanly British man wandering about his farm, engaging in farm duties, explaining that now is the time for British people to save their once great kingdom. His name is Rupert Lowe. He's a member of parliament, and he launches a new political party called Restore Britain. In this ad, and I'll play it for you in just a second, you'll see exactly why it's so viral. It's been seen by 20 million people at time of recording, 121,000 likes, 28,000 reposts, and 12,000 saves. This is properly viral. This man says what must be done is going to be incredibly painful, incredibly hard. It is going to require us to deport millions of people who do not assimilate to our culture, because immigration without assimilation is an invasion. We are not a Muslim nation. We are a Christian nation, and it's time to get rid of the freeloaders, the parasites, the people who come here illegally, and the people who are simply here to strip mine our culture.
So at a press conference this morning announcing Reform UK's front bench, with the hated COVID zealot Nadeem Zahawi replaced by Suella Braverman at the last minute, Farage was particularly brittle and prickly when asked about the Restore-sized elephant in the room.
Douglas Carswell.
Gosh, how long have we got?
Douglas Carswell.
How long have we got?
Ben Habib, Rupert Lowe. You've got to admit, a lot of people have stood on the stage next to you and thought that they were part of the future, and very quickly they weren't. Why should these people standing next to you now feel that this is going to change?
There are people in this room who've worked for me for 10 years. There are people in Brussels who worked for me for 20 years. There's one guy working for me now who's worked for me on and off in various things for 30 years. What you will find is that I am very, very loyal and trusting of people who return that courtesy. Now, there have been one or two people over the years who think, well, it's really back to the previous question, well, if Farage can set up a party and get millions of votes, we can. And you're witnessing that process going on at this very moment in time. Thank you very much indeed. And good luck to them. It won't last long.
The idea that Farage is loyal is like saying I'm afraid of saying what I think. But he's rattled. It won't last long. Did you hear that little comment at the end? It really does feel to me like Nigel believes he has a God-given right to do this and can throw his base under the bus because we have no choice. Indeed, at the moment, his best attack line appeared to be that Rupert Lowe is unpopular, despite his launch video having been viewed over 39 million times on X alone.
As far as Rupert Lowe is concerned, there will be some polling published later today that shows his recognition factor amongst members of the British public. It is not very high at all. And so a push poll that says 10% is utter rot. The party isn't even registered. He won't be on 1% anywhere, not even probably in Great Yarmouth. Thank you.
And here is that polling. And surprise, surprise, it was commissioned by GB News. So I hope that just tells you how this whole ecosystem works. So here you go. Exclusive new polling for GB News reveals that only 8% of the public know who Rupert Lowe is. This compares to 76% who can correctly identify Nigel Farage, and is only marginally higher than the 4% who can identify Ben Habib. And this is the way that GB News has decided to cover the story today. It's so obvious that they are just in on all of this together. When asked about Tommy Robinson at the press conference, Farage decided to try and throw Lowe and Habib under the bus again.
Mr. Farage, your candidate Matt Goodwin has declined to condemn the endorsement of Tommy Robinson and claims some people born in Britain aren't British. Do you oppose Robinson's support, and do you agree with Mr. Goodwin about Britishness?
I just don't have anything to do with him. And we know where Tommy Robinson's loyalties lie. He's with Ben Habib, or is he with Rupert Lowe? And are they getting together, or do they hate each other? I don't know, I'm very confused. Tommy Robinson can do what he wants to do, away from us, as long as he stays within the law, which doesn't always do. And it's just none of our business, nothing to do with it.
So I hope you can see Farage rattled and bristled. But now we get to the key moment of the presser, and I'm actually going to show this part to you in full, because in my view, it is historically significant. Remember, for months, the Farages have tried to claim that Rupert Lowe was thrown out of Reform UK and reported to the police by Zia Yusuf because of hurty words in an argument. They constantly said that Nigel had nothing to do with it. Now, that was obviously always bullshit, but today, Nigel admitted it in a fit of pique that should come back to haunt him. The real reason Nigel admitted that Rupert had to go was because of his position on mass deportations. Watch.
Your former colleague and friend Rupert Lowe has just launched Restore Britain. Are you feeling threatened at all by Restore Britain? And particularly now he's had the backing of Elon Musk, and it could split your vote.
I don't know about former friend. He sued me in 2019, as he sues everybody. And if you look at the history of Southampton Football Club, and then look at the history of WH Ireland, which he chaired in the city of London, you will see he was removed from both of those roles after lawsuits galore and two very dramatic EGMs. So friend would be stretching it just a little bit. There are, last time we counted, 11 parties that claim to be on the right or centre-right of British politics, from the Heritage Party to goodness knows who else. There is only one proper brand of centre-right politics in this country. It's called Reform. And as I'd mentioned earlier, you know, people think, oh, Farage has done it. We'll just set a party up. It'll be marvellous. We'll sweep the next election. It just isn't as easy as that. Now, does he have a profile on X? Yes, he does. Is Elon going to support him? Probably. But you see, you know, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities, including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, you know, I realised we just had to get rid of him, and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you.
What the fuck are you fools clapping at? He's saying that if one of you, because the other MPs were in the front row, he is saying that if one of you decides to take a policy position harder than he wants, he will report you to the goddamn police. He will try and get you locked up. And there's no apology for that. And you're sitting there, I mean, seriously. But the genie is out of the bottle now. Rupert Lowe responded, you admitted that you threw me out of party, reporting me to the police because I wanted to deport foreign communities of gang rapists and their accomplices. I stand by every single word I said. The British people can now join Restore Britain to make it a reality. And Tommy Robinson added, Farage said Rupert Lowe had to go from Reform when Lowe mentioned mass deportations. Tory 2.0, on the same day that Farage installed a Muslim who tried to get Lowe jailed to the deputy role. He's, of course, talking about Zia Yusuf, and he posted this video. We are on a mission to 700,000 subscribers, so I need you to do something for me right now. It is free, it is easy, it is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet, and it is the best way to support Outspoken. We're totally independent, by the way. No big tech backing, no billionaires pulling the strings. And if you turn on the bell, you'll get alerted to all our new videos.
Let's say Reform win the London mayoral elections. What we then have is a mayor of London that's Muslim, a Home Secretary that's Muslim. Now, why is this a problem? Because if you ask any Muslim, which I'm yet to see any journalist ask either of these two people this question, what comes first to them? Is it democracy, is it Britain, or is it Islam? And any honest Muslim who follows the doctrines of Islam will tell you straight. It's Islam first, Islam second, Islam third. That's a problem.
But Tommy did have a clarion call to Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib, who are sort of at war at the moment, seemingly on X, saying they need to get together. Watch.
Now, Nigel Farage, I just watched his speech at the Reform conference, and he's laughing, saying, to Ben Habib, are they friends? Do they hate each other? There's nothing Reform would want that they don't want less or more than advanced Ben Habib joining with Rupert Lowe. They don't want it. They want you warring. They want you clashing. They want you against each other. They want it fragmented, and they want it split. Don't give them that. Be adults, lads. Rupert, Ben, sit around the table. Obviously, whatever differences you've got, for the greater good of the country, which is all I really care about. I don't want to be involved in politics. I keep saying that so many times. But I want there to be a political viable option that doesn't demonise, kick out, slander working class people for being fed up of what's happening with the replacement of their people. That's what we want, okay? Ben's proven, Rupert's proven. Look, you both know Nigel inside out. So I know Nigel's not the man to lead this country and bring real change. He's not got the bollocks for it.
Now, of course, as we saw, the Reform propaganda networks, GB News and Talk TV, have to try and counter this Restore momentum. So GB News has its weird little poll saying, oh, no one knows who Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe is. And on Talk TV, they're trying to now suggest that it is in some ways racist if you try and say that being British means effectively being ethnically English or Welsh or Scottish. So Charlie Downs, who is a Restore Britain staffer, one of the top aides to Rupert Lowe, good guy, he's been on Outspoken a lot of times, went head to head with Alex Phillips, another good woman, but let's be honest, she is a Farageist on this issue. Watch.
If Britain's a people and a nation, well, that to me sounds like saying Britain is being sentimentally attached to the country. Britain is living here. It's being brought up here. It's being, what do you mean that's different to Reform UK? I need to understand this. Make it clear. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Well, Reform's position from their very beginning has been no different to Blair's position, to Cameron's position, which is that Britishness is defined by adherence to British values. This is a term that I have been hearing for my entire life. It was something that I was taught when I was in primary and secondary school, that's what it means to be British. And if you look at the law, British values are defined as democracy, tolerance, the rule of law, and mutual respect and tolerance of those with different faiths and beliefs. Now, that, in my view, is nothing at all to do with what it means to be British, because the majority of British people throughout our 1,000-year history have not believed in these values. These are a creation of the Blairite state over the last.
So what is it to be? So explain to me what is it that you're saying makes someone British that is different to what they're saying?
Well, it's a far deeper thing than that, Alex. It's about a connection to this land. It's about an ancestry here.
Okay, but connection to land, isn't that what Matt Goodwin said to you, though?
Please let me finish here. More than anything, it is Christian faith. It is ancestry and it's Christian faith.
So if you're not a Christian, you can't be British?
Well, I mean, you are certainly, I think, less British if you're not a believer in Christian principles. If somebody was Islamic, then they are certainly less British, yeah.
So I believe what Alex is trying to do there really is push Restore Britain to an ethno-nat position. And she pondered further, and I think you'll understand what I'm getting at. Watch.
Restore Britain believe British people are an ethnicity. We are a race. We are a demographic. Every other political party has a nebulous view of Britain and British people. Okay, so if British people are a race, my stepsister is not British then? I'm sorry, I don't understand. If you're going to say it, just say it. Say the quiet part out loud, okay? This is what I'm going to say to Restore Britain. Just say the quiet part out loud so we know. Otherwise, it just sounds like Reform, but apparently it's not.
Now, this is all a bit odd to me, given I'm sure Alex, who I like a lot, by the way, would have absolutely no trouble defining what it means to be Japanese or Nigerian. Indeed, she has previously written on this issue on her Substack. But Charlie Downs would not be pushed down an ethno-nat path while making it very clear that he thought Alex was being intellectually dishonest.
I think viewers at home will understand what it is that I'm getting at when I say that there is a difference between somebody who has come here in the last 5 years and got themselves a British passport, got themselves a indefinitely to remain or a British passport, and somebody whose family has been here for 1,000 years. Because what we're talking about there is the polity that we are seeking to represent and act in favour of when we engage in the political process. Because if you don't know who it is that you're seeking to represent and defend the interests of, then you can't engage in political activity. So please let me finish, Alex. Come on. So Reform do not have a clear idea of who the British people are. Their only definition that they have stuck with since they launched, as I've already said, Tice, Farage, all of them have said this, is the same as what Blair defined the British people as what Cameron defined them as, what Gove defined them as, which is British values.
And it's very clear to me that there is now an attempt by reformers to try and push Restore Britain into a corner saying, well, you're racist if you think that. Because look at this response to Charlie from Konstantin Kisin, who has recently come out as a Reform supporter. He said, the reason she kept asking you is that you didn't say in the interview what you said here. I was also not clear what it was you meant, but you've clarified it now. So Restore believe a British person is someone who is ethnically English, Welsh, Scottish or Irish. At what threshold of that ethnicity does someone become or stop being British? Now, of course, Constantine quite recently had this argument with Fraser Nelson in terms of what it meant to be English and agreed that ethnicity was a part of that. And I think that makes sense. We've got to divide the difference between being British ethnically and having British citizenship, being a British national. They are clearly two different things. But I credit Alex for having Charlie Downs on. That's important. Of course, having done that, she had to cleanse herself, though. So the reformist shill Isabel Oakeshott was up next. I mean, Isabel is literally engaged to the party's deputy leader, Richard Tice. And while she did spread some further smears about Rupert Lowe, she did also admit it was a mistake for Reform UK to lose him.
Well, Reform knows exactly what it is and what it stands for, and I can't see Reform suffering any kind of identity crisis as a result of a Rupert Lowe fringe party. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I've been quite rude about Rupert Lowe in the past because he has been quite fantastically rude to me privately in the past. And so I happen to know how difficult he is to deal with. And that is the story about why he's no longer with Reform. And he's set up this party because he could not work as a team with the rest of Reform. And that is a great shame because he's obviously talented. He's a good communicator. He's clearly passionate about what he stands for. And in my view, that would have been best for the country had he been able to work as a team with the rest of the party. But that wasn't to be. So we are where we are. And I'm not sure it's in the national interests for him to be doing what he's doing. But he's entitled to do it. And I suppose I might be wrong about this. Maybe he will, against the odds, manage to build up something that really does eat into Reform's vote. And I think that would be a great pity because I think it is a tremendous leap of the imagination to think that he could possibly go from where he is now to leading in the polls. And I'm just saying that from all the experience I have of just how difficult what you're trying to do is climb Everest, with one leg.
Well, if you listen to people like Isabel, a few months ago, you would have believed that Rupert Lowe had dementia and was going to be a doddery old fool by now. So now you're saying he's got one leg? Look, I know she was speaking metaphorically, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Reform is down in the polls, by the way. I actually think it's too early for the polls to even matter. I don't trust the polls, but Reform have been obsessed about the polls lately. Look at this. New YouGov voting intention poll for the Times and Sly News. Reform down 3 points, which means they're leading by just 5 points over Labour. Is that something to do with the Restore Britain launch? Possibly. Mike Graham, he's independent now, but he is continuing on the Reform UK path today too, bringing on Ben Habib, which is all good, but suggesting Restore Britain is somehow an irrelevance.
I mean, all day yesterday, why aren't you talking about Restore Britain? And I went, well, because what are you going to say? So they've formed a political party. I don't even know if they've actually registered it. I don't really know how many members they've got. They say they've got 50,000. It may be true. It's kind of like, the very fact that it's happened, people seem to think is worthy of comment. And maybe it is. But I don't see the emergence of a political party called Restore Britain making any difference whatsoever to anything.
Okay, which is fine. I am not a member of any political party, right? I just believe that we should have this debate. We're 3 years out from the election. For me, though, the most interesting exchange over the past day has been between Connor Tomlinson of Tomlinson Talks and Matt Goodwin, the Reform UK candidate in Gorton and Denton, fighting for his life at the moment against the Greens. But first, quick gut check for the new year. Data leaks aren't rare, they're routine. When a major breach lands, it's millions of records in one blast. Phone numbers, home addresses, logins, sometimes much worse. And the nasty trick, that data gets traded indefinitely. Data brokers and people search sites buy and resell it on loop, so scammers, stalkers, even a nosy employer can surface far too much with a simple search. That's why I use Incogni. In a murky industry, it's the service independently verified by Deloitte. They send removal requests to hundreds of broker sites and private databases, chase the slow ones, and log confirmations as records are taken down. Getting started is simple. Create your account and shared just enough to find your exposed profiles. Give Incogni one-time permission to act on your behalf. They launch the takedowns and keep following up so your data doesn't creep back online. The standout on the unlimited plan that I use is custom removals. Spot your details anywhere, so court portals, old company directories, people search results, that type of thing. Paste the exact link into your dashboard. Incogni's privacy specialists take it from there, beyond the automated list. Unlimited links handled by real humans. It's low effort, it works, and it buys genuine peace of mind. They can't target you if they can't find you. So don't wait for the next breach. Go to incogni.com/outspoken now and get 60% off an annual plan. That's incogni.com/outspoken. Protect yourself, your loved ones, and your future. But now, back to the show.
Don't let Mad Zap hypnotise you into voting Green. They want to legalise all drugs, crack cocaine and heroin. They want open border chaos. Keir Starmer looks like a robot, doesn't understand the British people. Vote reform. Put Gorton and Denton first. A vote for Goodwin is a vote for Gorton and Denton. Vote reform. Get Starmer out. It's time to sack Keir Starmer.
Interesting that he was talking about Starmer having a robotic voice. But look, Goodwin is an interesting character, as you know. Ex-Hope Not Hate lefty academic, who used to take on Tommy Robinson on the BBC, turned right-wing purist. But when it comes to Restore, he's actually gone back to his old playbook of crying racist. So when Matt posted on X, British Sikhs have done more than most to take on the grooming gangs. They've also done more to help me win a Labour fiefdom than a lot of so-called patriots who stood rival candidates and enabled the left. I do not like the blatant racism that surrounds pro-Restore accounts. Charlie Downs responded, like clockwork. Reform default to regime attack lines when their electoral prospects are threatened by an authentically anti-establishment offering. Racist. They are no different to the Tories. Uni party in a gaudy turquoise tie. Matt Goodwin then launched a lengthy response. I'm going to take you through the key parts now. He said, "You and many Restore people around you appear to be advocating blatant racism, calling to not just deport illegal migrants and foreign criminals, which is reform policy, but throw out settled Brits who work hard, pay taxes, and play by the rules. I do not want any part in that. That is not my politics. When I said it takes more than a piece of paper to make somebody British, I was referring to the emotional bond to our nation that Islamists, terrorists, grooming gang members, and foreign criminals reject. I find your language and the language of people around Restore sloppy and ill-defined. I believe, based on 20 years of actually talking to voters, that the British people will look at you and say no thanks in about 5 seconds. Your ecosystem is riddled with white supremacists, anti-Semites, racists, and conspiracy theorists. Path dependency matters in politics. From where you start determines your eventual outcome. You are starting from the wrong place. That is obvious to everybody who has a basic understanding of our country's political culture. Sitting online and thinking they are changing the world when they are doing no such thing. Nobody in Britain has heard of you. That is the blunt reality. It is also rather sad to watch so many young people waste their time and energy, be thrown down rabbit holes by people who I suspect are driven more by their dislike of other leaders than a serious assessment of political reality. From where I am sat, what you are doing looks like a direct rerun of what the National Front attempted to do in 1979, which your leader will remember, 0.6%. I suspect Lowe might hold his seat, but in the end it will be a monumental waste of energy, money and effort that will only serve to enable the left. And that is how you will all, in the end, be remembered. It is not the smart move. On the contrary, it is very, very dumb. I have to get back to canvassing now rather than sitting on social media thinking clicks matter. This is all I will say on the matter." So there's a lot to pick apart there. But in terms of Goodwin's claim in regards to Restore's mass deportation policy, it's just a lie. I've read every single word of that document. I contributed and am acknowledged in that document. What Rupert Lowe was referring to was getting rid of any member of the community complicit in the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. That is a crime. The remigration policy is laid out very clearly. Harrison Pitt of Restore Britain responded to Goodwin saying, "This is the incoherence we have come to expect from a brittle careerist who deep down shares the left's moral fetishes about the sacred status of minorities. Sucking up to Farage was always the easy option. Charlie Downs, among others, has taken a more hazardous stand on principle." And then Rupert himself added brutally, "Goodwin, you are full of turquoise shit. Restore Britain's position is clear. Illegals gone. Legals who refuse to work, can't speak English, claim benefits, live in social housing, commit crime, hate our way of life, gone. Reform's deportation policy is piss weak. Own it." But it was Connor Tomlinson who will be here on Friday with the mic drop moment. Because remember, he has actually long supported Goodwin. He has been on this show saying that he wants Goodwin to win in the by-election and has had a lot of personal communication with him. But he snapped after seeing Goodwin's attack and wrote, "Okay, Matt, it's unfortunate that we're doing this, but here goes. You don't believe what you're saying here because you were calling us all privately very recently saying you wanted us on the front lines of reform. Take my advice, say nothing, because I've had to eat a lot of shit to sit at the head table." Almost word for word what you said to me on the phone on the 7th of November 2025 after Reform HQ banned me from speaking alongside you at a local branch event. Because you said I am someone who should be on the front line of politics in the next 5 years. Make up your mind, Matt. Are the young men you've known for years racist anti-Semites and the real far right all of a sudden? You're against us publicly, but privately you agree with everything the lads leading Restore Britain say. Because you've appeared on our podcast, had dinner with us, had us write for your Substack, and sought our advice on how to write your social media posts for you. I get it. You've been told to run a moderate safe campaign by cowards in Millbank Tower. Sikhs are more likely to vote reform because they're sick of the Muslim colony in Gorton putting their kids at risk too. Totally understandable. But playing guilt by association and using the language of the enemy, the same language that Labour use to smear young men that you know personally, doesn't make you look more moderate or sensible. It's dishonest, dishonourable, unbecoming of a man who I've always respected. You're not just spitting in the eye of reform voters who like Rupert, you're doing it to men who have had your back, helped you climb the political ladder, and have held their tongue when you've subtweeted them in the past. I said before that I hope you win your seat. Just try not to shit on people who helped you from a great height while doing it. Unfortunately, Matt, Reform don't get to denounce identity politics, then play identity politics when it suits. You don't get to have Sikhs for Reform or Reform Jewish Alliance and have the top brass of Reform court the moderate Muslim vote, then say you're against identity politics. What you're against is representation exclusively for the English, Welsh, Scottish and Irish because for some reason us taking our own side would be racist, while every other group on both the left and right can play identity politics effectively at our expense. People will notice the inconsistency and refuse to fight the battle with one hand behind our backs. And of course, like clockwork today, as Tommy Robinson mentioned, Farage announced Zia Youssef as its shadow Home Secretary, which, as Connor pointed out, so Reform want another Muslim Home Secretary presiding over a Home Office that's been ideologically captured by a 700-plus Islamic network, controlling migration and counter-terror policy. What are we doing, guys? This is the same Zia Youssef who left the party when Sarah Pocham proposed we ban the burqa. Promises to deport illegal migrants and tackle radical Islam matter much less than the willingness and ability of those making these promises to deliver. Restore Britain itself added this is Reform's choice for Home Secretary, their choice to lead the police. This man tried to put Rupert Lowe in prison on false allegations because of his lies. Rupert's family home was raided by armed police. Youssef is a disgrace and should be nowhere near power. And indeed, at this event today, Farage would not even let Youssef answer questions for himself.
And then a question to Zia Youssef. Have you spoken to the man to your left about the Boris wave, as you call it? And have you two put your differences aside?
Well, I don't think Zia's held back on the Boris wave too much, do you? And from what I can remember, Jenrick resigned as immigration minister. What more do you want? What more do you want? He resigned. He could see what was going wrong. He tried to put the right things in place. So I don't think we need to answer the question, frankly. I think it really rather speaks for itself. Gary from Channel 4.
And of course, Farage had expressed his brutality earlier, passing over his loyal deputy, Richard Tice, even though Farage says, I'm a very, very loyal man, for the Shadow Chancellor brief that he had been working towards for years, handing it instead to Robert Jenrick.
And I want to begin by inviting onto the stage my loyal deputy of the party, Richard Tice, and the man who, if we win the next general election, will be the Deputy Prime Minister, and who is going to take on a very, very important role. The department will be called Business, Trade and Energy. But taking on the very responsible and important role of Shadow Chancellor is Robert Jenrick.
But as I say, Farage was prickly today. He wasn't even happy when he was asked a relatively tough question by his chums at GB News.
Some quick questions. Why no Defence Secretary? Why no
I can't win, really, can I?
Well, no, but these are the most important issues facing this country, our protection. Why have you chosen these individuals for these jobs particularly? And what about others? Lee Anderson, he's not here. Sarah Pochin, why have you chosen people who aren't MPs for jobs over MPs? And Richard Tice, are you happy you're not Shadow Chancellor?
OK, I can't win. This time yesterday, we're a one-man band. I mean, now you want a bus full. I mean, what can I do? I've appointed 4 people that I think are ideally suited to those roles. Very straightforward, very simple. And I think if you listen to me carefully, at the end I said, this is just the beginning. And that's exactly what it is.
Perhaps the madness best summed up by this single sentence from Bo Dade, who posted, Restore does not split the right-wing vote. Reform are not right-wing. And look, something is definitely happening out there, despite all of the hit pieces from GB News and the like, because Restore is already the 5th biggest political party in the UK, overtaking the Liberal Democrats that get a huge amount of mainstream media coverage, as Basil the Great put it. Amazing for day 3. Let's debate this now with the Superstar panel. Brilliant to have with us today Restore Britain supporter Lucy White, Peter C. Barnes. Fair to say he is a reform skeptic, but also someone who does work within Talk TV, and Leo Kearse, a regular face on GB News, but also behind his own independent YouTube channel. So, Leo, am I being unfair on Reform UK today?
Yeah, I mean, I think Farage had a point when he said, what do you guys want? Everybody wants the moon on a stick. And I mean, Farage is really in the unenviable position of trying to carry that vase across the floor without dropping it. He's got to appeal to not just the people on the right who, might be distracted by Restore or Advance or even a resurgent Tory party. He's got to appeal to people on the left as well. So, he can't alienate his potential voters by appearing too right-wing. He's got to pull that rope without breaking it. And so he's in a really tough position. I think the issue for Farage now is not alienating potential voters by appearing too right-wing. We might see as the window shifts, because we know we're still a good few years away from an election. As the window shifts and his attitudes change, he might be in a position to be more, as you'd say, right-wing, as Connor Tomlinson or Bo Dade would say, properly right-wing in a couple of years' time.
Peter C. Barnes, what do you think about this whole Restore launch? I mean, you've been very sceptical, of course, about Reform UK, but do you worry about the fact that you've got Restore Britain and Advance UK now, which haven't come to an arrangement?
Yeah, I have to admit, those two need to get on the same page very quickly and form a united front to actually take the fight to Reform. Because if I was a member of Reform, I'd actually welcome a little bit of criticism and actually my feet held to the fire for a change. Because the big problem isn't race, it's credibility that Reform are going to be hit on very, very hard. Let's not forget, Nigel Farage doesn't do anything. The man is basically just sits at home all day, because if you look at his time in the European Union, he was 748th out of 751 when it came to the most work hard MEPs. He went to barely any meetings. His workload in Parliament is pathetic. So when when Restore or when Advance want to go after Reform, all you basically have to do is, well, what have you been actually doing? Because quite frankly, all they keep doing is having these little parties because everybody hops across because of the polling numbers, but they've no policy platform, they've no actual credibility behind them. And that's one thing I'll give to Advance, is they have the college behind them, they have an academic and a principled stand behind them. I have to admit, I do find it quite interesting in that entire press conference that, Nigel keeps saying that, he's got all these other people. Then the moment they were given an opportunity to speak, he suddenly jumped in and answered the question for them. I mean, I'm not being funny, but they're still somewhat of puppets, and he's the marionette kind of puppeteer, isn't he? Because, it's rather ridiculous. But then again, I'm just very happy to see a lot of people wake up to the fact that Nigel Farage is somewhat of a con man, and what I've been saying for a very, very long time.
Now, Lucy, you were there on Friday night at that historic launch. But I've got to ask you, what is going on between Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib? Because there have been these exchange of sort of like passive-aggressive posts on X. And you've got Tommy Robinson saying, just get in a room, you two. But these are the last two, Lucy. So Rupert Lowe replied to Ben saying, as I have said, Ben, you and Advance are very welcome in Restore Britain. We would love to have you on our team. Our party would be stronger with you in it. But Ben replied, I joined Restore on the day you launched your movement, 30th of June 2025. You are also very welcome to join Advance. I await your response to my open offer to merge. And it's just like, Lucy, come on. Surely these two should be able to sort this out together, offline.
So I think this is a separate issue, which, of course, Advance UK have a decent amount of voters, which could come to Restore. But I think most crucially, focusing on just Restore Britain, the key part is to realise that we do not have time for a reform government. There is no time. In 2029, this is the last chance to save Britain. If we don't go for Restore, the country's lost forever. And why do I say that? Because Reform is, of course, not a right-wing party. No right-wing party would fill the party with foreigners, Muslims, and former Tories who betrayed the country. So Restore Britain is a party for Britain. Restore Britain is not afraid to make the difficult decisions. Restore Britain realises that the UK is not, or should I say Britain, it is not an Excel spreadsheet for numbers. The British people are a people. We are here with our ancestry, our lineage, and our heritage. You can't just become British with a piece of paper, such as a passport, that says you're British. And I think the poll that said only, 14% of people know who Rupert Lowe is, well, that doesn't matter, because what matters is that the overwhelming majority, or perhaps every single Brit, native Brit, will look around the country and realise that it's lost, it's wrong. And the only way we can bring our country back is by having a pro-British government, and that is exactly what Rupert Lowe sets out to achieve. He's the only party right now that has a vision to save the country. And in Restore, no one is afraid to make these tough decisions. We're not going to tiptoe around. It's not about, I can't say the truth because I'm going to offend someone. The truth is the truth at the end of the day.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, this poll, I was just a bit like, doesn't this show you, and I know you're someone that still appears on GB News and Talk TV, and of course I respect that, but to me it showed the coordination between Reform UK, because this is an exclusive poll commissioned by GB News, yet JL Partners, I watched the segment, go on and sort of act as if this was just a poll that came from nowhere, and Nigel Farage had obviously been tipped off about the results because he raised them in his press conference today. Now, I find it really fascinating that the argument seems to be, Rupert Lowe isn't famous enough. I mean, no one enters politics unless you're Donald Trump with massive recognition ratings, right? Like Emmanuel Macron was not recognized by over 90% of the French people, yet was able to become president because there was so much discontent in this country within a year, really, since he launched his campaign. But of course, this is sort of a chicken or egg situation, is it not, Peter? Because the problem is you're going to have GB News now do everything possible to keep Rupert Lowe off air because they don't want him to become famous. Neither does the mainstream media.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, but the reality is this poll isn't the one that Reform should really be worrying about, because this one is all about whether you're known. The one that they don't particularly want to talk about is whether people actually like Reform and whether people actually like Nigel Farage. Because when you look at his favourabilities, he's standing at 64% unlikable. That's a huge obstacle to tackle. So they might be leading in the polls, but when it comes to the actual kind of getting people out to vote for Reform and vote for Nigel, they're going to really struggle. The advantage Rupert has here is the fact that he now gets to write his own script at the time that it is very, very important that people know who you are. He gets to be the principled one. He gets to be the one that writes his own story. That is very rare in professional politics. This is actually a very strong position for Rupert and Restore to find themselves in, because he hasn't got the baggage that Nigel Farage has. Because let's not forget, he's Mr. Brexit, and we only won Brexit by 52-48. There's still a lot of people that hold Brexit very negatively in their minds, and they hold Farage responsible for it. So they've got to get over that hurdle. They've got the entire establishment and the blob that's going to throw everything at Reform. So yeah, Restore might come up with a few hurdles, but the kind of monumental mountains that Reform have got to cross, I'm sorry, I don't see them doing it. And this idea of some kind of supermajority or anything other coming near to it is just a fantasy. That's why you've already seen that Reform has started to flirt with a pact with the Tories very openly now, considering they said that they were never going to do it. Yet again, Farage says one thing, his actions say something else. That is a very strong pattern that, if Restore wanted to attack him on, that's the one I would go for, because it's very, very true.
Dan Wootton Outspoken is your no-spin, no-bias, no-censorship outlet for independent news. We have no big tech backing or billionaires pulling my strings, but that does mean I need your support. So please hit subscribe on YouTube, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to Dan Wootton Outspoken on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's totally free, but allows me to continue my promise to always keep fighting for you.